That's right. It's Eagles week. All year long, we've been waiting for this week right here, and it's finally here. We had a show earlier today. We got our show with Sunil, although he looks like he's behind shower glass, but we'll make it work. We will make it work. You know what, Sunil? I got to say, because a couple weeks ago, you called me out for bumping you, like bumping the show for other people.
Yeah.
And I was unwilling to do that this week. I had a second behind enemy lines guest. He wanted to go at your time, and I said, no, I can do noon. That's what I gave him because I didn't want to bump you and make you feel out of place. So just want you to know that I love you, Sunil, and it is not about bumping you. You are irreplaceable on Last Second Sports. But there is a ton
Moral of the
Eagles talk.
story.
Yeah.
Wait, moral of the story, squeaky wheel gets the oil. Be squeaky, guys. Be squeaky.
All right. I think it's squeaky wheel gets the grease, but you tried. It was a good effort. All right, listen. We got a lot of Eagles talk coming up, and we're going to do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports. We're giving you our take down to the last second. And it's Tuesday, which means I got my guy, So Real, Sunil, in the building. What's up, Sunil?
Out here just living the dream. Feels nice going into this big game. 49ers this is the way we want the 49ers to be looking going into such a big game, right? So it's going to be fun. Lot to talk about. Ready to get into it, my man.
Yeah, most certainly. Before we get into it, how was your Thanksgiving, man?
Thanksgiving was good, man. Ate a lot of food. Got to spend some time with family. Definitely trying to work off those extra holiday pounds ASAP. But yeah, man, I missed you for the week. You were obviously out there doing your thing on the best coast, the West Coast. How was yours?
It was fantastic. There was a lot of moving parts. Let me walk through the story. I won't tell people why I was in these places. There's some personal things, but I will tell you where I was at and how crazy this went. So from Friday night, I stayed at home in Florida. Saturday morning, I get up at 3 a.m. to fly to Portland, Oregon. Okay. I get into Portland, Oregon around 1 p.m. Stay the night in Portland, Oregon. Sunday, I get up around 4 a.m. again to fly to San Francisco to watch the game. I'm there all the rest of Sunday. Sunday night at 10:30 p.m., I fly to Vegas, stayed the night in Vegas, not for fun, for personal reasons, but stayed the night in Vegas. And then that night, I flew back to Portland. So in a 4-day time span, I spent significant time in 4 different states and slept in 3 different states. Kind of crazy.
Wow.
It was a lot of moving parts.
Forget. And the 49ers cooked the Hawks on Thanksgiving Day, so that was another memory.
They definitely did. No, hold on a second. Here's somebody that I haven't seen in a long time. Oh my gosh, Debbie. I have not seen you in so long on this channel. I appreciate you for tapping in. I still see you on Twitter all the time, but I haven't seen you in forever on here. It's good to see you. Appreciate your support as always. Let's get into it. 49ers, it came out today, are Super Bowl favorites. I got to admit, that was kind of shocking to me. I definitely, it's clear that they are one of the 4 teams that should be considered in this. But it was a little shocking to me to see that they were Super Bowl favorites at this very moment. Do you think that's a little bit premature? Do you think they should be Super Bowl favorites? And if you were laying your money down, where would you put it?
Yeah, I mean, and just for clarity, it depends on what gambling site you look at as far as who's getting the odds, because I've seen some where they're not the favorites. They're, the Eagles are a favorite ahead of them. So it kind of like, but we did see the one that we were talking about. And as far as, it's I understand why, because you look at the 49ers and basically like when they're on, they're winning by multiple scores, right? And they have an offense that could score over 30 points. They have the number one scoring defense in the league, keeping you under 15 points. And that's kind of been what the scores have been consistently, no matter the caliber of team. Now obviously they had the 3-game streak where they were only able to score 17 points, but if they can score more than 17 points, it seems like they're going to win, and they're going to win pretty handily. Now, is it premature? I mean, I think that these stats, these lines are going based off of projections, based off of where teams are trending. And you got to say, I mean, the 49ers, big win against the Seahawks, big win against the Jags, like dominant wins where these teams have, been able to get some big wins themselves. It's hard to say that they're not, even though, interestingly enough, we saw the Eagles just go out and beat the Super Bowl champs. So am I ready to put I'm always ready to put my money on the 49ers, but is it premature? I think no. I mean, obviously we have a game that's going to really show what the 49ers are capable of, this Sunday. But as of now, based off of how they're playing, it's there's an easy case to make that the 49ers are the favorites.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a case. I think you can lay out a case for any of the top 4 teams. And to me, the top 4 teams are the 49ers, no particular order, but 49ers, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. I think for the Chiefs, hey, defending Super Bowl champions, they've beat the Eagles and the 49ers in a Super Bowl, although vastly different teams, right? But overall, they've been to the Super Bowl 3 years out of the last 5 or whatever. They've won 2 of them. They know how to win in big games. Their defense is better than it's ever been. You would expect that their offense would eventually catch up with Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid. So, and most likely they're going to be the number 1 seed over there. So you could see that. You could see the Ravens just because Lamar's so dynamic. Their running game's always dynamic. He's the best he's ever been as far as a passer, and their defense is really good. Okay, you can make a case for them. We know the 49ers. The 49ers have the best roster in football, I would say. I mean, it's maybe debatable, but I think they have the best roster in football. So you've got that going for you. And this is a team that is constantly around the Super Bowl. They've been to 3 NFC championships in 4 years and look primed to go to another one. They've been to a Super Bowl. So they've been there. And then the Eagles were just there. They just beat the Chiefs, which was a big win for them. They've beaten teams like the Dolphins and the Bills over the last few weeks, and they have a very talented roster. So I think you can make a case for all of them. For me, at this moment, though, before they've actually beaten the Eagles, it's hard for me to say that they're above the Eagles. Ask me again Sunday, and I expect them to win the game. If they actually win that game, then I would say, all right, yeah, give me the 49ers over the Eagles for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, the case is also when you look at just the stats and where these teams rank up, the 49ers have a top 5 defense and offense. And I think they're the only team that could really say that, right? They're top 4. I think they're ranked 4th in scoring offense and 1 in scoring defense. So when you look at it that way, it's just hard to argue that this team can't beat anybody, even the teams that you mentioned. But ultimately, it's not about what you do in the regular season. It's about what you do when there is no tomorrow. So yeah, but it is nice to feel this way about your team this late.
Yeah, I don't know. You cut out, so I didn't hear exactly what you said at the very end, but I'm sure it was really important.
I said it's nice to feel. I said it's nice to feel this way about your team this late in the season.
I agree with that. I don't know what is going on with my freaking light. It keeps cutting out. We're just having all sorts of difficulties over here. I don't know what's going on. Just goodness sakes. Maybe it's just not meant to be. You know what? Maybe I should have kicked him off the show, guys. I don't. Maybe I should. Unbelievable. Jeez. All right.
My internet's tripping
Let's.
for real. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it is tripping. It's definitely tripping. I think mine's tripping too at this point. Bro, I don't know what's going on. My light keeps going out. Internet's tripping. Whatever. We're going to make it through this show. Gammon says, so real, Sunil. Thank you for carrying Jesse. It's hard work. Yeah, I'm 6'2", 230 pounds. Carrying me is not easy work by any means. So I agree. And he does it a lot. So yeah, I agree. I agree with that. All right. I started this comment. I think it's a good one. Nee says, why are we praising Hurts so much for lackluster bad starts and then stepping up at the end? Shouldn't we want to see him maybe just consistent. Be consistent for 4 quarters. Feels like the arsonist firefighter syndrome. I don't know. I think he's playing good. I don't think he's playing great by any means, but when you can come from behind and be the reason that you're coming from behind so many times, I think that's important. I also think when a player is on pace to get 45 total touchdowns in a season, you're having a good season. I posted something yesterday saying how clutch he was, or 2 days ago. And I got so many people that were mad that, oh my gosh, how can you praise a team other than the 49ers? And it's like, well, it's okay to say that another team is good or another player is good. It's not an indictment on your favorite team or an indictment on your favorite player. It just means that other team's good. You can recognize what it is. The Eagles are a good team. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. It's okay. It doesn't mean they're going to win the game. He's playing good football. He is. Yes, he's turned the ball over quite a few times, more than you would like, but he's also on pace for 45 total touchdowns. He's rushed. He averages a rushing touchdown a game on top of what he's throwing. So, yeah, he's a good player. He is.
Yeah, and I think you can look at it the opposite way as well, right? What if Jalen Hurts was awesome for the first 3 quarters and then crashed out in the 4th quarter, right? What would you rather have in a quarterback? Somebody that, and I don't even think you could really say Jalen Hurts is struggling in the first 3 quarters, but not as good as he was necessarily last season. But when push comes to shove, he's making some amazing plays when it matters against really good teams in really important moments. To me, you're looking for that clutch gene. And I think one thing about Hurts is he brings so much off the field as far as leadership. I was watching First Things First, and I think Nick Wright was talking about how they did some kind of like heart monitor on Jalen Hurts in a game. And when he's out there playing, his heart rate is actually lower than when he's on the bench watching the defense play, because when he can't control the outcome, he's more nervous than when he has the ball in his hands. And that's like really insane when you think about it, that he's more calm under pressure than he is when he doesn't have an opportunity to be in control. So I think that's the type of makeup you want in a quarterback. And he's shown, like, the Eagles have been legit ever since he's been the full-time starter there.
Yeah, I mean, I think their record over the last 2 seasons when he's starting is 26-3. I don't, and I wins are not a quarterback stat. I fully understand that. But when you look at the breakdown of that team, it is a very talented team. A.J. Brown has made a major impact on him. But when you look at that team being in first place for a majority of last year and then doing it again this year, that at some point that's not a fluke. And he is a big reason when they have situations that are gotta have it scores, he's consistently delivering in those situations. He's done it for 4 weeks in a row. That is not a fluke. Regardless of what happened to get there, that's not a fluke. If Brock Purdy played really bad in the Cleveland game, but if they would have made that field goal, everybody would have been jumping to his praises. Hey, it doesn't matter how bad he played. He played well when it mattered most. Well, then we should be able to say the same thing about Jalen Hurts. Even if he's played bad,
Sure.
when it's mattered most, he's nutted up and he's gotten the job done. Keenan says, 2 months already. What's up, fellas? 2 months already. That's pretty fast. Thank you for supporting, Keenan. I appreciate you. And Omar says, I'm a new member. Appreciate you, Omar. Appreciate you. All right. The stream is turning around. I feel good about it now. The second half of the stream is going to be much better.
That's it. Just like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Great
Hey, we
segue.
don't start strong on Last Second Sports, but when the stream's on the line, we come through in the clutch. Gosh damn it.
We
All
deliver.
right.
We deliver.
We deliver. The secondary. Let's talk about the secondary. There's a lot of moving parts in the secondary. Over the last couple weeks since we've talked last, Ambry Thomas has basically become a full-time starter. They've lost Talanoa Hufanga for the year. They have decided in the last week, maybe that's a 1 week thing, but Kyle Shanahan right before the game, essentially said, hey, this is what we're going to do. He decided to have Charvarius Ward shadow DK Metcalf. There's some changes going on in this secondary. Overall, do you think, I'll ask a couple questions, but I'll start with, do you think overall these have been good changes that you have seen?
Yeah, and I think they're a product of what they did with the Chase Young trade, right? So the best secondary you can have is a great defensive line, right? That could get pressure and get sacks, because then it makes the job in the secondary a lot easier. Also, I think that the resurgence of Ambry Thomas and his ability to hold down the fort has given him the opportunity to move Demo in to that slot corner position and given them options. And it's exciting, Jesse, because we all know when Ambry Thomas was drafted, I was one of his biggest supporters. I was like, this guy could play man. He was a 3-year starter for Michigan. He was like locking everybody down, locked down Ohio State, all this kind of stuff. And then he just wasn't ready right away. And I got to give props. I'm pretty hard on Steve Wilkes, critical of, when some of the things that I think that he deservedly needed criticism for. But one thing that he has to get a lot of credit for is what he's been able to do with these young guys on the secondary. Deommodore Lenoir is playing the best he's ever played. Ambry Thomas obviously is playing the best he's ever played. A guy like Jair Brown could come in and be effective. Obviously, Mooney Ward, I wouldn't say this is the best he's ever played, but he's a damn good corner. And I love that change. And it turned out in results, man. DK Metcalf did not have a good game against Charvarius Ward. And it's pretty interesting that DK Metcalf's best friend and teammate from college is now on the other side of the field against the 49ers. Similar build, similar make, similar talents. I think that he made. Sorry. I think that he made that change on purpose, and I think that it's going to bode well if they continue to do the same things against the Eagles.
Remember the whole clutch thing? Remember that talk like 2 minutes
Faded
ago?
out,
Yeah, we're not clutch. That's funny. I at least the internet's not clutch. We'll give it that. We'll blame the internet. There's things out of our control. The refs are here to screw us. I liked him following DK, and I think that was the ultimate confidence builder for him, because there was definitely some, I wouldn't say personal things. It was a competitive reason, but I think DK did some good things against the 49ers and Charvarius in the past. And Charvarius Ward wanted to go out and prove something that day, and he did exactly that. I don't know about the matchup with AJ Brown. I'm here for it, and I hope that they actually do move him around, because I also believe that he is the best corner that the 49ers have, regardless of is he a number one, is he a high-end number two? that's beside the point. I think he is overall the best corner the 49ers have. So, yeah, he probably shouldn't be just relegated to one side of the field. And I think bigger receivers are ones that he probably would match up better with. I don't know about a matchup with Devontae Smith, if that's a good matchup for him. I think A.J. Brown might be a better matchup. But I also think A.J. Brown is a hell of a lot better than DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf disappears for long periods of time, regardless of who they're playing. Sometimes he's really on and he's really good. But there are times that he'll have games where he does almost nothing. A.J. Brown is always a factor. He was better than DK in college. He's better than him now. I'm curious to see how that plays out, but I definitely want to see it this week. Do you want to see it, or are you advocating to see that continue this
Yeah,
week where he shadows AJ Brown?
absolutely. I would advocate for it, and DK Metcalf. I would agree. AJ Brown is better than DK Metcalf, but I definitely know Jalen Hurts is better than Geno Smith, right? So he's whatever deficiencies the 49ers have, Jalen Hurts is going to be able to take advantage of more than Geno Smith was able to. So yeah, I would like that matchup. And like I said, I think that having 4 defensive linemen that can all rush the pass without needing blitzes and all these type of things gives the secondary and be effective, gives the secondary more confidence because they don't have to be in coverage that long because they have the defensive line that's getting to the quarterback. So I would like that matchup, and I agree that they should do that because of what the defensive line is capable of.
Yeah, most certainly, and that's it's funny because somebody brought it up, and I actually agree with what you were saying. Where's it at? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. He said the best secondary is the defensive line. I agree with that. I know what you meant by that. I absolutely know what you meant by that. And if this defensive line is getting home and doing what they need to do, then it makes the job easier for the secondary. I totally understand that. But I will also say that the secondary, and you talked about this as well, has improved because during stretches in the first half of the season, especially that 3-game stretch, the defensive line was getting close, but they weren't finishing, and not because they were taking too long to get to the quarterback, but because the secondary wasn't giving them enough time to get to the quarterback. It was like that extra quarter second is all they needed, and the secondary wasn't holding up. The changes that Wilks has made has allowed the defensive line to get home. Yes, Chase Young probably helps that as well, but everything all encompassing is the reason why. And I agree. When the defensive line is getting home, that's when the secondary is at its best. So I understood what you were saying.
Thank you. Rare time we're on the same page.
Very rare time. We'll see how the rest of this show goes. Cryptic says, I'm excited for the game. When the Niners win, I just hope they realize it's still the regular season, and I hope their gas doesn't burn out again. Yeah, I think that's my biggest concern. My biggest concern is not could they turn it around after the bye week, and I picked them to beat the Eagles as well before the season started. I think I'm going to stick with that one. But it's more, if they don't get the bye week, do they run out of gas? Can they make it 12 consecutive weeks to get to a Super Bowl? That's not an easy thing to do. I think they can beat anybody. I don't think traveling is my concern. If they have to go on the road in the NFC Championship, that's not my biggest concern. It's just more of, okay, 12 weeks. You got 12 weeks that you got to do this. Can you keep everybody healthy? Can you keep everybody fresh? That is a big question for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that comment was more geared towards how they had the big victory against Dallas and then, had the 3-game losing streak afterwards. So that's how I read that comment. But one thing that's different is the 49ers have the Ravens in eye distance, right? As far as right after the Eagles, they have another divisional game, and then they have the Ravens. So a lot of birds actually that they're playing this whole month, right?
And the Cardinals, Cardinals are right after that, I think. What the
Yeah,
hell,
so
man?
a lot of birds. But I guess it's in theme for Thanksgiving, right? You got to cook them birds. But I,
Golly.
uh, I I I think that it's a little bit different. I think they went through that. They learned their lesson from that. So I would assume that they're the most locked in. You know, you hear they're different in the interviews. Like Fred Warner is different when he's interviewing. I think um, Kyle Shanahan is different. You know, he's doing all of those things that you wanted him to do, Jesse, taking
Mm-hmm.
accountability, putting the
Mm-hmm.
blame on himself. Like there's a different focus around this team. Even the personnel changes, Jesse, that usually doesn't come out. You usually don't see Kyle Shanahan really get involved with personnel decisions on the defensive side and moving a coordinator. I mean, he never had to move a coordinator, but you know, that significant of a change, taking them out of their comfort zone, moving them on the sidelines. And those changes have amounted to a lot of success. So I think that this team is a lot more focused than they need to. It kind of, if there was going to be a downtime, it seemed like that was the perfect time for them to have a 3-game losing streak and, you know, figure it out after the bye. And usually they play extremely well after the bye. And I guess injuries would be the biggest thing. I don't think focus and mentality is going to be an issue though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And, you know, it's funny because right before that comment, you had talked about how we were on the same page. And then one comment later, you already disagreed with how the comment was read. I can't win with you, Sunil. I don't understand it.
As long as you should like put that in your like glow in the dark thing. Like I can't win against Sunil. Like it should just pop up so you get reminded at all times.
Yeah. It's like it's like when you're at work and it's if you work computer jobs, a lot of them will they really care about the employee, so they'll give the pop up that says it's time to walk around and take a break. That's what it's like when I do a
Yeah,
show with you. It's time to admit you've taken an L. It's time
yeah,
walk around. You
yeah.
need a rest. He's killing you. Something like that. Is that what you're saying?
hmm Yeah, I mean, we know why I'm the first show to get booted off of the schedule when it needs to be, right? Everybody else builds your confidence up. I'm the only one keeping it real. So real, Sunil.
Oh man. Daryl says, "Hey guys, what do you think about Kinlaw at the point of attack?" I, I think this is a really interesting question at this moment in time because if you remember, he was highlighted quite a bit last year in that NFC Championship for being pushed around. And a big reason why the Eagles were able to run the ball, I think he's the best that he's ever been. I don't, he's never going to be the guy that we drafted him to be or hoped that he would be, this Buckner replacement. But as far as a rotational player, I think he's very good. It's obviously helped him stay healthy. And I think this is the best he's ever been at the point of attack and just in general. I am curious to see, though, because it's like going back to the scene of the crime. He was dominated last year by the interior of that offensive line in Philly. And those guys are still just as talented as they have ever been along that interior, just as big, just as physical. So I am curious to see when he gets his reps what it looks like. And if they do target him again, I imagine they will target him, but how effective are they in the run game going at Javon Kinlaw? I am curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Javon Hargrave, I think, is gonna be able to give Javon Hargrave is gonna be able to give some insight as far as maybe some tips to Kinlaw. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Kinlaw is playing better when he's behind a guy like Javon Hargrave, who's, you know, had a lot of success in this league. It's going to be interesting, right? There's a lot of history here. We've both mentioned, I think this is the new rivalry for the 49ers for the next 5 to 10 years because of the way that these organizations are built and the talent that they have on their team. So I think it's the best defensive line going up against the best offensive line, and we get to see who wins out.
Yeah. Nee says, just a reminder, Sideline Wilkes is undefeated.
It's facts.
Yep, he's undefeated. He is. He was also 5-0 before he wasn't. So I don't. But he is. You're right. Technically, Sideline Wilkes is undefeated. All day, every day, Kim says, Jess, whatever happened to your homeboy Detroit fan? He's still around. He and I are still really good friends, but his job just kind of took over. He started to travel a lot. He changed his profession, started to travel a ton, and it just didn't make sense as far as him keeping up a regular schedule to keep this thing going. So we decided to part ways professionally. But as far as is like in my life, he's still one of my best friends. So yeah, rad. He's in fact, if we play Detroit in the playoffs, and I hope we do, he'll be my behind enemy lines guest because he knows that team inside and out. So, but I appreciate you asking. All right. What challenges do you think the 49ers face this week against the Philadelphia Eagles?
There's definitely the unique one, which is this is one roster that they're not clearly better than, right? I think the Eagles have just as good of a roster as the 49ers do. They have a lot of strengths and big names and, big guys that have made big plays and big moments. They also have the mental edge against the 49ers as far as having that victory in the NFC Championship game. I think obviously a lot of the team might not hold to that because they feel like they played 10 on 11 and that's the reason why they lost, which is good. But I think the biggest thing is they're not going to out talent this team, right? Because they have just as much talent and a mobile quarterback. Those are the two things that I think are going to play potentially a big role in this game. We've seen the 49ers have had trouble with it. Mobile quarterbacks have been the Achilles heel. And watching that game against Kansas City, Jalen Hurts was eating them up when it came to his ability to, evade pressure and just use his legs to get that. And I was just like, I tweeted right away, the 49ers have to spy Jalen Hurts at all times. And it's not what the 49ers are usually doing, but I think it's going to be really important that the defensive line obviously stays true to their lanes, but I wouldn't mind putting a guy like Dre Greenlaw and just spy him. Dre Greenlaw has that closing speed. And I think if you keep Hurts in the pocket with this defensive line, I think that it could be enough, but I think those are the two biggest challenges that the Eagles bring the 49ers.
Yeah, it's interesting because you brought up unique challenges, and I know that was kind of the original question, so I'm going to bring up a unique one. The 49ers, whether they're at home, obviously they're going to have the advantage, but even on the road, they travel so well. 49er fans always travel well. This is one of the rare instances and rare teams that actually hold that 49ers fan base in check. It looks to be, and last year was only about 20% 49er fans for the NFC Championship. This week, it's about 28%. The 49ers are at worst on the road, 40, 45%. There are stadiums that they go to, and there are more Niner fans than the home team. Not just the Rams, it happened in Jacksonville. So the 49er fans travel really, really well. This is one of those rare instances where 3/4 of the fans are not going to be 49er fans, which means it's going to be a true road environment. And I think that is a unique situation for this team because ever since Shanahan's been here and when they've been good, this fan base travels extremely well. And 28% in Philly is nothing to scoff at. That is a very, very good turnout, but it's Philly. It's very hard to pack that stadium with your fans. So the projection right now is around 28%, and I think that'll be a unique situation for them. I agree with you with the mobile quarterback situation, and not just the mobile quarterback. If Lane Johnson plays, and it sounds like he probably will, it's a mobile quarterback with an elite offensive line and a very good running game and a good running back. Those three things are hard to find in the NFL. Not many mobile quarterbacks, elite mobile quarterbacks exist, and they usually aren't paired with an elite running game and an elite offensive line, and they have all three. So I think those things are probably my biggest challenges, but I do have two more. The Eagles' run defense is right up there with the 49ers. It's like the 49ers and the Eagles. Those are the two best run defenses in the NFL. The 49ers love to run the ball, obviously. So I think that'll get interesting. And then I would say the downfield throwing of the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to challenge the 49ers downfield, and they have the offensive line to hold up against what you called the best part of the secondary, which is the pass rush. They have the offensive line to potentially hold up against that. And if they can, and they can push the ball down the field, then it really is going to challenge the secondary of the 49ers and force them to cover deep downfield against very, very good receivers. So I think that there are a lot of challenges here that the 49ers could potentially face.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you're getting, there's a reason why you put them in the, I think starting the season, there's a handful of teams that actually have Super Bowl aspirations. The Eagles were always on that list. And for all the things we just mentioned, and the reason why they've always been the biggest challenge for the 49ers is because of everything we just mentioned. It's unique to their team. And usually the 49ers don't have to worry about those challenges against most teams.
I think this is a really, really good question by the Sentinel. He says, Hassan Reddick is a menace. What do we do to stop him? I think the 49ers do exactly what they should have done last year. When you watch the Philadelphia Eagles, and I talked about it all week leading up to that game, Sentinel, about how Hassan Reddick does not bite on play action. He just continues to go after the quarterback, and he hopes that he guesses right. It's a gamble for him in that defensive line. And when he guesses right, you see that it can be disaster, and that's ultimately what ended the 49ers season. Hassan Reddick still plays just like that. But the way that you slow that down is you don't go play action right out the gate. You run the ball at a player like him, and you allow him to flow upfield and throw screen passes behind him. You start to make him think a little bit. And if you can make him slow down by even a half a step, that's when you got him. That's when you mix in the play action. That's when you can really open up the play action game and get behind that. But you don't just come out right away, go play action, 7-step drop, and expect that he's going to bite, because that's not the way that he plays football. You're going to have to force him into being disciplined. And then once you've got him guessing, that's when you can attack him. But I agree, he is a menace. But I would attack him the same way that I would any elite pass rusher like him. And that's go right at him. So.
Yeah. And another thing is, make sure, to put Charlie Warner on him, not Ross Dwelly.
How about you just don't put a tight end on him? How about you double team him? How about you chip him with a tight end and then allow your right tackle to help, and then also keep a running back by there just in case. Do all of the things that you can do.
Yeah, I love this comment by Knees. Let's be real. Charlie Warner's been training his whole life for this moment. He's ready. Yo, he's been in the gym for one reason and one reason only: to be able to make sure that Brock Purdy is protected when it comes to that play. No, I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Another interesting thing is, what is the offensive line gonna be? Burford's back in practice. Are they gonna pull Feliciano out? Are they gonna put Burford in? To me, I think you keep Feliciano there. I think the offensive line we saw last week should be the offensive line for the rest of the season, as long as everybody's healthy. And I would want to see Burford off the bench because, that matchup, McKivitz versus Reddick, is not a good one for the 49ers. So I would hate to also have another question mark at right guard. Feliciano has been pretty great wherever he's plugged in. I feel more confident with him than I do with Burford.
Yeah, most certainly. And then Cryptic says the biggest challenge is the tush push. Yeah, it might be. That is a real thing. I know it's kind of a joke, but it really isn't at the same time. All right. Let's see here. All right, let's go to the other side, because it's not like the 49ers are slouches here, Sunil. They have advantages in their own right. They're also a very, very good team. Where do the 49ers have advantages in your opinion?
I mean, if they just hold true to what the season has been like for both teams, the 49ers should win this game easy, right? They're the first ranked scoring defense, and they're the first ranked scoring defense, fourth ranked scoring offense. Actually, I think they're tied for third with the Eagles at scoring around 28 points per game. But the difference is the Eagles, I think, are the 22nd scoring defense in the league. So and I think they give up at least like 22 points per game. So the 49ers, if they score 22 and they hold the team, if everybody just holds to their averages, the 49ers win this game, right? So that's one thing that's there. I think with the resurgence of Brock Purdy and his ability to get the ball down the field, the ability to get the ball out of his hands quickly and use his mobility, we've seen, I think, lesser quarterbacks like a Mac Jones, like a Sam Howell, whatever you think about these guys, they've eaten this secondary alive. And not with guys like Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, and George Kittle as their weapons. So no matter what these big names are, I mean, and you look at Darius Slay, Bradbury, these are some big name corners. They haven't done well, right? And so I think that the 49ers have an advantage there because they have really great passing options, and I think a really great signal caller in Brock Purdy. And then you mentioned that their running defense is great, but they're going up against the number one rusher in the league. And I think that regardless of how good your running defense is, you're not doing it against Christian McCaffrey, right? You're not seeing Christian McCaffrey all those times. So can Christian McCaffrey be that difference maker with his ability to understand the blocks, his footwork, his power, all of those things? He's the perfect running back for a Kyle Shanahan system. He might be the perfect running back for anybody's system, let's be honest. But like you mentioned, if they start attacking Hassan Reddick, running to him, running screens around him, who would you rather throw the ball to and give the ball to than Christian McCaffrey? So to me, that's three things that I think are unique opportunities that the 49ers challenge the Eagles with.
Okay, I like those. The first thing I had down was the passing game, which I agree with you. It's not just the Eagles defense, but their passing defense is awful. One of the worst in the league. They do have big name corners, but they're a little long in the tooth. And I think cornerback is the one position that youth is really an advantage. They're a little bit older there. So I think that's a big reason for it. But they gamble a lot with their pass rushers. As good as their pass rush is, they gamble a lot. And if they miss, it can result in big plays. And I think Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy absolutely can carve up this defense. And that's what I would do. We talked about how do you keep Hassan in check. Just overall as a game plan, come out passing. Even if it's short passes to CMC, Debo, just to kind of open things up, to use that as your run game. However you got to do it, but I would Brock Purdy, I think the most he's thrown in the game this year, I could be wrong. I think it was only 31 times. He doesn't have a lot of attempts in a lot of these games. I think he realistically should throw 35 plus times this game. I think that would be a path to victory. I think that he, Ayuk, and the rest of this cast of characters really can make it hard on Philadelphia and make them once again play from behind and maybe even, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I could see a scenario where if the 49ers are hitting on all cylinders through that passing game, they might be able to pull away from the Eagles as good as they are. So I think that is certainly one of them. I think the linebackers versus Christian McCaffrey and Kittle is a major advantage for the San Francisco 49ers. You talked a little bit about it with CMC, but I agree. Definitely there, but also Kittle and in the passing game, that's a major advantage for the 49ers. One thing you didn't say, and I'm surprised you didn't say this because you are the true Shanistan here. I think the 49ers have a coaching advantage, not just at the head coach spot, but across the whole staff. Let's not forget that the Eagles lost their offensive and defensive coordinator Sure, they've done great this year. Yes, as they've gone on, the season has gotten better and they've gotten more continuity. But those guys are not as seasoned as the 49ers staff is. The 49ers staff is riddled with guys who are potential head coaches or ex-head coaches or what have you, interim head coaches. The 49ers coaching staff is just simply better than the Eagles, in my opinion. So those are the three big ones. And then I'll throw out just two random things. The 49ers are the healthier team right now, and they're the more rested team right now. And those things, when you're going into a game that you expect to be very, very physical, those things matter, in my opinion. So those 5 reasons, I think, are why the 49ers have some advantages in this game.
Yeah, man. I'm always playing 4D chess with you. Let you go out there and say Kyle Shanahan is the strength, right? If it comes from me,
yeah.
I'm gonna get all the hate. I mean, we haven't seen Brother Bob yet, but I'm sure he's
I haven't seen him
pulling
today.
out his wallet to be able to say some stuff. But Brother Bob, just understand, your boy Jesse over there, he's the one that said Kyle Shanahan is the strength. He's the one who said Kyle Shanahan is the strength. See what I do, man? Inception.
It's funny because as I was making that comment, he goes, "Look who the hell it is! It's the Shanahan himself in nails." Nice,
missed you, Brother Bob. Missed you,
right on time.
You know, see, brother Bob. See what happens. You actually scared Jesse away from his real true takes about Kyle Shanahan. Yeah. You usually come hard, pause early when it comes to at my throat with being the Shanahan. You eased it up this time, and before you got your message out there, he's over here praising Kyle Shanahan. So just want you to know, Brother Bob, this is really all on you.
So good. That was funny, man. It's like you say his name 3 times and he appears. You talk in the mirror and there he is. Yeah, he's Candyman. That was actually really, really funny. All right. There's the reason I'm asking this question here is because I was asked a little bit of a different question by a friend today. And he asked me, he said, what have we learned from the 49ers over these last 3 weeks? And I told him nothing. And he said, oh, how can you say that? And he asked me to explain. And when I went through the whole reason as to what I meant, he understood where I was coming from. But I do think that there are questions or things that we can learn about the 49ers in this game. And I think for me, they're circumstantial. And I'll give you my 3 things that I think we potentially could learn in this game. And then I'll let you go as well. And maybe these are on your list. But for me, and again, these are circumstantial. I don't know for sure that it's going to rain hard the way that it's forecasted to be right now, potentially. But the Eagles just played in a heavy rain game at home this last week. And watching Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts cut through that rain as if it wasn't even in their way was extremely impressive. So we know that Jalen Hurts can do it. I would argue that Brock Purdy, the only time he's looked somewhat human as a quarterback is when it's rained. The first quarter against Seattle in the playoffs, and then the first half, and really it carried into the second half potentially with the ball staying wet in Cleveland. So can he play through inclement weather? That is a question that I think a lot of 49er fans may have. Now, again, it's circumstantial because if it doesn't rain, then it means nothing. But it could rain. I think another question that a lot of people have is how does this team perform if they have to come from behind? If they need that gotta have it drive, can they put that together? And I don't think that's just a Purdy question. I think that's just an offensive question. I think that's a Kyle Shanahan question. I think a lot of people could frame it as a Purdy question, but I think it's an offensive thing more for me. So maybe they're in a situation this game where they're in that tough environment. We talked about it being a clear home crowd for the Eagles, unlike a lot of road games for the 49ers. If they're in a situation, tough environment, good team, where they have to have a gotta have it score and come from behind, can they do that? Maybe they're in that situation this week. And then I would say the last thing is, and I talked about it a little bit earlier in the challenges and advantages for the Eagles, or potential advantages. If this offensive line for Philadelphia holds up and does not allow that front 4 to get home, can this secondary hold up for large chunks of time? Can they hold up for 2 quarters at a time if they have to against an AJ Brown and a Devonta Smith? Those for me are the questions that can certainly be answered. They are circumstantial. I don't know how this game's going to play out. Maybe one of those things gets answered. Maybe they don't get answered. Maybe they don't even run into them. But for me, those are the things when I look at this team and this game as a whole that potentially questions that could arise that I think could get answered for this team. Do you have anything else that you want to add or any questions that you think might get answered?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those were great. Those would definitely all be on the list. The one thing, so when we looked at this schedule at the beginning of the season, like we mentioned earlier, there's only a handful of teams that you really truly believe have Super Bowl aspirations, and there's 3 teams that I feel like you could circle right off the bat. One was Cincinnati, one was the Eagles, and one was the Ravens. They had 3 games against teams that you can really have true Super Bowl aspirations. I don't put the Cowboys on that. If you're Cowboys fans, whatever, don't at me. They lost to Cincinnati, right? They have 2 more opportunities. It's the Eagles and the Ravens. And I don't think you go 0-3 against those teams, Jesse, and have the confidence that that you could win a Super Bowl, right? We got to see what they do as far as their ability to raise to the level of their competition, and see what they're capable of. I think even Vegas says they're 3-point favorites as an away team into the Eagles that have the better record, have the most recent success against the team, just beat the Super Bowl champs. And the money that's coming in believes that the 49ers are going to win this by a field goal. And when you look at how Vegas lines work, usually you're a +3 at home. So this is really saying that the 49ers are plus. This would be a +6 if they were home against the Eagles. So it's not like they're the underdogs. People are expecting this team to go out there and get a victory. Are they going to be able to execute and be able to do that? Because I agree with you, Jesse. This isn't a healthy Eagles versus a healthy 49ers. This is a healthy 49ers against a banged up Eagles. Even though they have the better record, they're still figuring out a lot of things on their side where I don't think the 49ers are really trying to figure out as much. So it's going to be important that they come out here and show what they're capable of. I think this game means more to the 49ers than it does to the Eagles. Are they going to be able to win that type of game?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and one that that question for sure is going to be answered. Right, your question of can they win that game or can they avoid going 0-3 against those teams? And I love that because it's a little bit less circumstantial than mine. I mean, mine certainly rely on certain scenarios happening, although they could be very likely against a team like Philly and in a open dome, I guess, like the Link. So I think that those things could happen, but yours is very, hey, cut and dry. This is what it is. But I do have to call you out on something, Sunil, and I'm
I
going to
know what
bring
you're
it
about
back
to
to a
say.
couple of weeks ago.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
yeah,
I was ready
tell
for
me.
it. I was ready
say
for
it.
it.
Come on.
You think because I said, "Oh, if can you still believe in the 49ers if they lose to these type of teams?"
Yes,
I'm
yes.
talking about the way they lose, right? So if
Okay.
if it's a missed field goal by Jake Moody, or if it's a close victory or a close last second something happens type of thing. But I do think that what I mean more by just wins and losses, because I think even if the 49ers play terrible and somehow win, I don't know if you have as much confidence either, right? I think it's like the way they look, and maybe I should have said the way they look against these 3 teams. I think is most important. I said if they go 0-3, I don't expect them to go 0-3, but for me, the way they look against the Bengals, the way they look against the Eagles, the way they look against the Ravens are important games. And unfortunately, they didn't have the best game against the Bengals, even though I think the score isn't a great depiction of how close that game actually was. But we got to see that they're able to compete with these other two teams. Whether it's a close win, close loss, to me isn't as important as how they compete.
I love that you know me that well, that you knew exactly what I was going to go after. And you also can recall things from 3 weeks ago when we had these conversations. This is it right here. We hold each other accountable for our takes, most certainly, and we do not agree. That is
as
not
I
why
said it, I was like,
shows.
oh, snap. I was like, as I said it, I was like, oh, man, I hope he doesn't remember.
Oh man, that's funny. Brother Bob says, please don't mention Nails in the second team, Cincy. No Super Bowl now. Yeah, he's still on me because I picked Cincy to go to win the Super Bowl this
year. But you got an out. If the starting quarterback goes down, you got an out.
They were playing really good. They started to play really good
Willie
football.
Beeman. Unless you got Willie Beeman on your team, aka Brock Purdy.
They did. They started playing really good football. They were starting to look like a good team, but ultimately, yes, the answer is, regardless of why, they are not going to win the Super Bowl. So I was wrong on picking Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl. We'll see. We'll see, though. There's some interesting things going on over in the AFC. I'm curious to see who actually does come out of the AFC, but the AFC opened up quite a bit, I think, for some of these other teams that aren't Kansas City because of Cincinnati's potential, well, not their potential, but their definite departure from the playoffs after losing Joe Burrow. And at the very least, we're going to get something a little bit different in the AFC Championship, and you can't be mad at that. So I'll take it. I'll take it.
And your boy, Josh Allen isn't playing like MVP either, so.
Hold on a second. Josh Allen had himself a freaking day on Sunday. He is not the reason that they lost that game. Let's be clear about that. That dude in the rain.
That's not what I said. I said he's not playing like an MVP. He's the reason why that team is in every game. Who
did you pick to win the MVP?
He's like a. Who did I pick? Like at the beginning of the season? I think Jalen Hurts.
I'm gonna have to go back and find that. We probably did a show. I'm gonna have to go back and find it. I'm that petty. I don't. Did I pick Josh Allen? I probably did. I'm a Josh Allen stan, so I'm not gonna lie.
I just know when it comes to you're a big Josh Allen stan. Like I am a Kyle Shanahan stan. You are a Josh Allen stan.
You know what it is. It's and I'm not afraid to admit it. But when I say that a quarterback's going to be really good coming out of the draft, and then they show it, I'm like definitely loyal to that being true. And Josh Allen was one of those guys. Herbert was one of those guys. Stroud's my new like love craze because I had him pegged as like the next superstar quarterback. So now you're going to hear me talk about CJ Stroud glowingly for the next 15 years that he's in the league. Yeah. Even when he's bad,
hopefully
he's good.
Don't ruin him like you ruined Allen.
I ruined
Hopefully he doesn't go down the Josh Allen trajectory.
Oh man, I am curious to see what the Bills do this offseason, just from a football fan perspective. McDermott's definitely going to be gone. They have to get an offensive head coach. If either Herbert or Allen can get Ben Johnson, I think that could get really interesting because Ben Johnson's a hell of an offensive play caller. I think he's the next it thing as far as an offensive coach. And so him, Bieniemy, if they can get their hands on those two. Oh, Harbaugh would be a good one. Harbaugh with Herbert, I think, would be good too.
Can you imagine Harbaugh with Herbert and Austin Eckler?
Oh man, he would do some things over there, wouldn't
he? Harbaugh needs a running game too. Eckler is a hell of a running back. So
that's funny. Brother Bob says, "Oh no, you didn't say that you're like PP. What did I say that was like Larry? I'm curious. I don't know. Maybe just sticking with the quarterback thing.
Maybe the way you stick with your quarterbacks.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Hey, at least Josh Allen has like 4 years that are solid in this league, right? I'm not going off of like a good.
Hey, man, don't talk about my guy Purdy like that, bruh.
I'm not talking about Purdy like that. I'm talking about in general.
Purdy got 2 solid
it's not like
years,
I was
bro.
on the.
I'm about to. Hey, one more year, and you're not gonna hear the end of it on Purdy with me. I'm just waiting.
Come talk to me when CMC's gone. Then we'll have the conversation. You can hold me accountable
for
then.
his downfall.
Not praying for his downfall. I'm
That
just
will never
saying
happen.
this is
CMC.
my prediction
CMC
was
is
not
never leaving.
Oh, he's a cyborg. He's always going to play. Okay. All right.
He is.
Hey, but I will say this for
It's
everybody
not only
that
a CMC until. No, let me say this. Even if CMC leaves, it's only because Shanahan got the next reincarnation of CMC there.
That's interesting that you bring this up because I was talking with Coach about it, and we were talking about CMC and how do the 49ers kind of continue to keep things going as CMC ages and moves on. And it's not just CMC, it's about just kind of finding that skill set and keeping that in the offense. I think that that's going to be important for Brock, right? I'm not saying that he can't overcome not having a guy like CMC, but I think we do know that his skill set definitely relies on that a little bit, much like you've seen. Shoot, I mean, Aaron Rodgers' skill set relied on wide receivers that ran great back shoulder fades. He always had a guy there that could do that, whether it was Nelson or Jennings or Adams. You look at Drew Brees with Colston and Thomas and Graham, big body wide receiver types. That fit his skill set, or that fit their skill set. So for Brock to continue to be at his best, I think keeping a skill set like that around will be very, very important. But I was going to say, Jordy Nelson, I was going to say, for all those that love to hold me accountable in the chat for the Brock Purdy stuff, Sunil will do your job for you. You don't have to worry about that. That'll be a constant. So just hang tight. Sunil will make sure that he does that for you. So if in 2 years we're sitting here and I'm completely wrong, I'll never hear the end of it with Sunil. I promise you he will hold me accountable.
Which is most probably what's going to happen.
Fair. That's totally fair. That is totally fair. All right. Listen, before it gets too hot in the kitchen here, we're technical difficulties and stuff. We should probably get out of here. Thanks for joining me, Sunil. I always enjoy doing these shows with you, man. It started out a little rocky with some of our technical difficulties, but we made it through. It's Eagles week, man. I can't wait to get your take next week on how this game went. And obviously, we'll keep in touch. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you always so much for showing support. We're almost to 14,000 subs, y'all. 14,000. Wow. Make sure you stay locked in here at Last Second Sports. Tomorrow, I'll be back with Behind Enemy Lines, Eagles style. Can't wait for that. We'll see you then. Peace.